The idea of the perfect moment is one of the most seductive illusions people cling to. It offers a comforting excuse for inaction, a justification for hesitation, and a way to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. The belief that there will be a time when everything aligns perfectly, when the fear disappears, when the conditions are right, when the risk is minimal, is a delusion that keeps people stagnant. And yet, it is an idea that many hold on to, sometimes for their entire lives. The problem with waiting for the perfect moment is that it assumes life operates in a predictable, orderly fashion, where opportunities present themselves with clear labels and where personal readiness is something that arrives fully formed. But this is not how reality works. Life is chaotic, unpredictable, and indifferent to our desire for certainty. If you examine the greatest achievements in history, you will find that they were rarely born from perfect conditions. They were built in the midst of uncertainty, doubt, and even outright disaster. The individuals who accomplished great things did not wait. They acted, often despite overwhelming fear, despite imperfection, despite incomplete knowledge of what lay ahead. When you tell yourself that you will start when the time is right, you are engaging in a form of self-deception. You are pretending that the problem is external, that if only the circumstances were ideal, you would move forward. But the reality is that it is not the world that is preventing you from taking action. It is you. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of looking foolish. These are the real barriers. And instead of confronting them, people disguise their fear as wisdom, convincing themselves that waiting is the responsible choice. They say, now is not the right time. I just need to prepare a little more. But what they fail to see is that they will never feel fully prepared, because true preparation comes through action, not before it. Think of a person who wants to start a business but keeps delaying because they need to learn more. They tell themselves they need just one more course, one more book, one more year of planning. But the truth is they are afraid to fail. And they believe that if they just gather enough knowledge, they can eliminate the risk entirely. But no amount of preparation can replace experience. No book can teach you the lessons you learn by actually doing. And so they wait, convinced they are being smart, when in reality, they are simply avoiding the discomfort of stepping into the unknown. Perfectionism is another dangerous aspect of this illusion. Many people refuse to begin something unless they can do it flawlessly. They think, if I can't do it right, I won't do it at all. But perfection is an impossible standard, and waiting until you can do something perfectly is the same as deciding never to do it. Every skill, every achievement, every great work starts in an imperfect state. The best musicians were once beginners who played terribly. The most skilled writers once wrote poorly. The most successful entrepreneurs made countless mistakes before they found success. Progress is always messy at the start. It must be. The only way to get good at something is to begin, to struggle, to learn, and to improve. This illusion of the perfect moment is not just about external circumstances or personal readiness. It is also about time. People assume they will have time to act later. They think, I'll start when I'm older, when I have more money, when I'm less busy. They convince themselves that the future is infinite, that they will always have another chance. But time is slipping away. Every moment spent waiting is a moment lost. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to start, because hesitation becomes a habit. Before you know it, years have passed, and you are still in the same place, still waiting, still telling yourself that someday will come. The brutal truth is that someday never comes. There is only now. The future is not guaranteed, and the idea that a better moment will arrive is nothing more than wishful thinking. The most successful people are not those who had the best conditions. They are those who acted despite imperfect ones. They understood that waiting was the real risk, that inaction was the real failure. They moved forward even when they were uncertain, even when they were afraid, even when they felt unprepared. And because of that, they succeeded. If you are waiting for the perfect moment, you are wasting your life. You will never feel completely ready. The conditions will never be flawless. Fear will never fully disappear, but action, imperfect, hesitant, messy action, is the only way forward. Start now, not because the time is perfect, but because it never will be. Life is inherently chaotic. This is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The universe itself is built on unpredictability, constant change, and forces beyond our control. And yet, people cling to the illusion that life should be stable, that things should fall into place neatly, that there is some level of control that can be attained if only they plan enough, prepare enough, or wait for the right conditions. But this belief is fundamentally flawed. Stability is not the default state of existence. Chaos is. From the moment we are born, we are thrown into a world we do not understand. We learn to navigate it through trial and error, through pain and discovery, through adaptation and resilience. Nothing remains the same for long. Our bodies change, our circumstances shift, and the people around us come and go. The world itself is in a constant state of flux. Economies rise and fall, relationships evolve, disasters strike, and unexpected opportunities emerge. The very nature of existence is built on instability, and the sooner we accept this, the better we can learn to operate within it. The desire for order is natural, but the expectation of lasting stability is dangerous. People try to impose structure on their lives in an attempt to control what is ultimately uncontrollable. They plan their careers, their relationships, their futures with the expectation that things will unfold according to their vision, and when they don't, they feel lost, betrayed by reality itself. But the problem is not the chaos. The problem is the belief that chaos should not exist. Many people postpone action because they are waiting for stability. They think, I'll start when things settle down, or once I have everything figured out, I'll move forward. But things never truly settle. Life does not pause for you to catch up. If you are waiting for a time when there will be no uncertainty, no risk, no unpredictability, you will be waiting forever. The only way to move forward is to embrace the fact that disorder is a fundamental aspect of life and to act despite it. One of the greatest human strengths is adaptability. The ability to function within chaos, to take unpredictable circumstances and make something meaningful out of them, is what allows people to survive and thrive. Those who achieve great things are not those who waited for perfect conditions, but those who learned to work with imperfection. They did not resist the reality of chaos, they accepted it and moved forward in spite of it. Fear often comes from an aversion to chaos. People are afraid to take risks because they cannot predict the outcome. They hesitate because they want certainty, but certainty is an illusion. The future is unknowable, and no amount of planning will eliminate that fact. The only way to deal with uncertainty is to step into it willingly, to act without knowing exactly how things will unfold. This is not recklessness, it is courage. It is the understanding that the alternative to risk is stagnation. Some of the most transformative moments in life arise from chaos. A sudden job loss forces a person to pursue a passion they had been ignoring. An unexpected breakup leads to self-discovery and growth. A seemingly random encounter opens the door to a life-changing opportunity. These events are not planned. They are disruptions to the expected order of things. But within that disruption lies possibility. If life were perfectly predictable, there would be no room for surprise, no space for new beginnings, no opportunity for transformation. The problem is not chaos itself, but the way people respond to it. Some resist, trying desperately to hold on to an order that no longer exists. They refuse to accept change, clinging to the past or to their preconceived notions of how things should be. Others surrender completely, allowing themselves to be swept away by disorder without any attempt to shape their own fate. But there is a third option: to recognize chaos for what it is and learn to navigate it, to accept that life is unpredictable and to move forward anyway, to take responsibility for one's actions even when the outcome is uncertain. True strength comes from the ability to remain grounded within disorder, to find direction even when the path is unclear. Those who understand this do not waste time waiting for stability. They take action, knowing that stability itself is temporary. They build something meaningful, not by avoiding chaos, but by working with it. The sooner one accepts that life is chaotic by nature, the sooner they can begin to truly live. There will never be a time when everything is perfectly in place, when all questions are answered, when risk is eliminated. But that is not a reason to despair. It is an invitation to engage with life fully, to act despite uncertainty, to build within disorder. The chaos will always be there. The question is whether you will let it control you or whether you will learn to move within it. Fear is an inseparable part of the human experience. It is not something that can be eliminated, no matter how much one tries to prepare, avoid risk, or build a life of security. Many people live under the false belief that one day they will reach a point where fear no longer affects them, where they will finally feel ready, confident, and without hesitation. But that day never comes. Fear is wired into human nature, and it will always be there. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stagnant is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Fear exists for a reason. It is a survival mechanism, an ancient part of the brain designed to keep humans alive in dangerous situations. It tells people to be cautious, to avoid risk, to stay within the boundaries of what is known and safe. This was useful in the past, when danger often meant physical threats, predators, hostile environments, or unknown dangers that could result in death. But in the modern world, fear has evolved beyond physical threats. Now it manifests in psychological ways. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of the unknown. It prevents people from taking action, from stepping outside their comfort zones, from pursuing what they truly want. The problem is not fear itself, but the way people respond to it. Many believe that they must wait for fear to subside before they can act. They tell themselves that once they feel more confident, once they have more knowledge, once they are certain of success, then they will begin. But confidence does not precede action. Action creates confidence. Waiting for fear to disappear is like waiting for a storm to pass when you live in a place where storms are constant. It will never be completely gone. Instead of trying to eliminate it, one must learn to carry it. Those who accomplish great things do not do so because they are fearless. They do so because they refuse to let fear control them. The athlete stepping onto the field, the entrepreneur launching a new business, the artist sharing their work with the world, they all feel fear. They feel the weight of doubt, the anxiety of potential failure, the pressure of stepping into the unknown. But they move forward anyway. They have learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Fear is often exaggerated in the mind. People anticipate the worst possible outcomes, creating stories of disaster and humiliation before they have even taken the first step. The mind convinces them that failure is catastrophic, that rejection is unbearable, that making a mistake will define them forever. But reality is rarely as cruel as fear makes it seem. Failure is temporary. Rejection is not fatal. Mistakes are opportunities to learn. When people allow fear to dictate their actions, they are not protecting themselves from danger. They are imprisoning themselves in a life of missed opportunities. Growth requires discomfort. Anything worth pursuing comes with risk. The first time someone speaks in public, they will feel nervous. The first time they try something new, they will feel uncertain. The first time they put themselves in a vulnerable position, they will feel exposed. But each time they push through that discomfort, they grow. Their fear may still be present, but it loses its power. It becomes something they acknowledge, but no longer obey. The only way to truly weaken fear is to confront it repeatedly. People often look at those who are successful and assume they are simply more confident, that they were born with an ability to act without fear. But that is an illusion. They became confident by taking action despite fear. They built resilience by facing uncertainty and proving to themselves that they could handle it. Every great leader, artist, athlete, and thinker has felt fear. The difference is that they chose to act anyway. Avoiding fear does not make it go away, it only makes it stronger. The more one retreats from what they fear, the more power it gains. A person afraid of social situations who avoids them will only become more anxious over time. A person afraid of failure who never tries will only deepen their fear of taking risks. Fear grows in the dark, in avoidance, in hesitation. The only way to shrink it is to bring it into the light, to face it head on, to prove through action that it is not as paralyzing as it seems. Fear is not the enemy. It is simply a part of being alive. It will never disappear completely, and that is not a bad thing. It means that one is pushing boundaries, stepping into the unknown, doing things that matter. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to learn to live with it, to act in its presence, to refuse to let it dictate the course of one's life. Fear will always be there, whispering doubts, creating hesitation, but it does not have to be in control. The choice to move forward belongs to the individual, and that choice is what defines their future. People often believe that if they cannot do something perfectly, they should not do it at all. They wait until they feel fully prepared, until they have all the knowledge, all the skills, all the confidence necessary to execute their plan flawlessly. But that moment never comes. Perfection is an illusion, and the belief that it must be achieved before action is taken is one of the greatest barriers to progress. In reality, small, imperfect action is always better than hesitation. Movement, no matter how flawed, creates momentum, and momentum is what leads to real growth. Hesitation comes from fear, fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of making mistakes. People convince themselves that they are being smart by waiting, that they are being careful and responsible. But in most cases, hesitation is not wisdom. It is avoidance. It is a way to delay the discomfort of stepping into the unknown. And the longer one hesitates, the more difficult it becomes to act. Overthinking sets in, doubts multiply, and the task that once seemed challenging but possible begins to feel impossible. Taking small, imperfect action breaks this cycle. It shifts the focus from achieving a perfect result to simply making progress. When a person takes even the smallest step, they prove to themselves that action is possible. The task that once seemed overwhelming becomes more manageable because they are no longer stuck in endless deliberation. They are moving forward. And once movement begins, it becomes easier to continue. The hardest part of any journey is the first step, because it requires breaking free from inertia. But after that, each additional step builds confidence, skill, and experience. Perfectionism is often disguised as a virtue, but in reality, it is a form of self-sabotage. A person who refuses to act unless they can do something perfectly is setting themselves up for failure before they even begin. No skill is mastered without practice, and no progress is made without trial and error. Every expert started as a beginner. Every great work started as a rough draft. Every success was once an imperfect first attempt. Waiting for perfection is just another way to avoid the discomfort of being a beginner. The truth is, mistakes are not the enemy. Mistakes are necessary. They provide feedback. They highlight what needs improvement. And they offer lessons that could never be learned through hesitation. A person who never makes mistakes is a person who has never tried anything difficult. Growth comes from action, from doing, from engaging with the world rather than sitting on the sidelines. And the only way to gain experience, to develop skill, to build confidence, is to act. Imperfectly at first, but consistent. Consider someone who wants to start a business but keeps delaying because they feel they need more knowledge. They take courses, read books, watch videos, all in the name of preparation. But years go by and they are still in the same place, still waiting to feel ready. The irony is that no amount of passive learning will ever prepare them as much as actually starting, making mistakes, and adapting. The greatest lessons are learned in action, not in planning. The same principle applies to every area of life. A person who wants to get in shape but spends months researching the best workout plan without ever stepping into a gym will see no results. A writer who waits for the perfect idea or the perfect moment to write will never complete a book. A speaker who wants to become more confident in public speaking but never steps onto a stage will never improve. In all these cases, small, imperfect action, going to the gym and doing even a few minutes of exercise, writing even one bad paragraph, speaking even for just a short moment, will lead to far greater results than waiting for the perfect moment. Hesitation feels safe, but it is one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop. Time moves forward, whether one acts or not. The longer a person waits, the more opportunities they miss, the more they reinforce the habit of inaction. 1 year from now, they will either look back with the satisfaction of having made progress, however imperfect, or with the regret of having let hesitation keep them in the same place. The only way forward is action. Small, messy, unpolished action. The kind of action that is embarrassing at first, that feels uncomfortable, that makes mistakes along the way. Because that is how everything worthwhile is built. The person who embraces imperfection and moves forward despite it will always surpass the person who hesitates in pursuit of perfection. Perfection is a myth, progress is real, and progress only happens when one is willing to take the first step, however small, however flawed, however uncertain. People crave certainty. They want to know what will happen before they take action. They want guarantees that their decisions will lead to success, that their efforts will not be wasted, and that they will not face pain, failure, or regret. This desire for certainty is understandable. It offers a sense of control, a feeling of security in an unpredictable world. But the truth is, certainty is a myth. It does not exist. And the pursuit of it only leads to hesitation, disappointment, and a life constrained by fear. The world is inherently unpredictable. No matter how much one plans, prepares, or analyzes, the future remains unknown. A person may choose a stable career path only to find their industry disrupted by new technology. They may invest years into a relationship that they were sure would last only for it to fall apart. They may follow every piece of conventional wisdom only to end up facing circumstances they never anticipated. The belief that one can create a life free of uncertainty is an illusion, one that leads people to cling to false securities rather than embracing the reality of change. Many people delay taking action because they want to be sure they are making the right choice. They think, I will start this business when I know it will succeed, or I will pursue my dream when I am certain it will work out. But that moment of certainty never arrives. No one knows with absolute confidence whether their plans will lead to success or failure. The only way to find out is to act. And yet many people choose inaction, mistaking their hesitation for wisdom when in reality it is just fear disguised as logic. The pursuit of certainty is not only futile, it is dangerous. It keeps people trapped in mediocrity, unwilling to take risks that could lead to growth. It convinces them to stay in jobs they hate, relationships that no longer serve them, and routines that offer comfort but no fulfillment. It robs them of the chance to build something extraordinary because they are too afraid to step into the unknown. The irony is that while people seek certainty to feel safe, what they actually create for themselves is stagnation. Those who achieved great things are not those who had certainty. They are those who moved forward despite uncertainty. Every successful entrepreneur, artist, athlete, and leader has had to make decisions without knowing the outcome. They faced risks, they made mistakes, they encountered failure. But they understood that waiting for certainty would mean never starting at all. They chose action over hesitation, knowing that the only way to create clarity was through experience. The most successful people do not eliminate uncertainty, they learn to navigate it. They accept that risk is a part of life, that failure is a possibility, and that no path is free of obstacles. Instead of being paralyzed by the unknown, they take calculated risks, adapt when challenges arise, and trust in their ability to handle whatever comes their way. They understand that confidence is not the result of certainty, it is the result of action. The fear of uncertainty is deeply rooted in human psychology. The mind is wired to avoid risk because in the past, uncertainty often meant danger. But in modern life, the biggest risks are not physical threats, they are emotional, social, and financial. And unlike physical threats, these risks are not fatal. Failure in business, rejection in relationships, or embarrassment in social situations are painful, but they are survivable. In fact, they are necessary for growth. The ability to tolerate uncertainty is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop because it allows them to take action despite fear. The need for certainty often leads people to seek absolute answers where none exist. They look for foolproof strategies, guaranteed paths to success, or universal truths that will remove all doubt. But life does not work that way. Every person's journey is unique, shaped by countless variables that cannot be predicted or controlled. There is no single formula for success, no guaranteed method to avoid failure. The only way to move forward is to make the best decision possible with the information available and adjust as needed. Instead of chasing certainty, one must learn to embrace uncertainty. This does not mean acting recklessly or ignoring risks. It means accepting that no decision comes with a guarantee and moving forward anyway. It means trusting in one's ability to adapt, to learn from failure, and to find solutions along the way. The world will always be unpredictable, but a person who is willing to take action despite that unpredictability is the one who will succeed. Certainty is a myth, but progress is real. Growth comes not from knowing every answer in advance, but from taking steps forward, even when the outcome is unclear. The choice is not between certainty and uncertainty, it is between action and hesitation. Those who understand this will move forward. Those who do not will remain stuck, waiting for a certainty that will never come. Time is slipping away. Every second that passes is a second that will never return. This is an unavoidable truth. Yet most people live as if they have an unlimited supply of time. They postpone their dreams, delay their decisions, and hesitate to take action, believing that there will always be more time to do what truly matters. But time does not wait. It moves forward, indifferent to hesitation, excuses, or fear. Those who do not recognize this truth often find themselves looking back with regret, realizing too late that they wasted the one resource they could never get back. Most people assume they have plenty of time, especially when they are young. They convince themselves that they can start later, that they can put off important things until tomorrow, next week, next year. But the problem is that later is not guaranteed. Life is unpredictable, and while people assume they will always have more time, the reality is that time is constantly running out. The future arrives faster than expected, and those who keep delaying action eventually wake up to find that years have passed without progress. The illusion of endless time leads to inaction. People hesitate because they believe they can afford to. They let opportunities slip away, thinking that more will come. They postpone difficult decisions, assuming they will have more clarity later. They avoid taking risks, believing that there will be a better moment in the future. But every moment of hesitation is a moment lost. The chances that exist today may not exist tomorrow. The people in one's life today may not be there in the future. The ability to act physically, mentally, emotionally is strongest in the present. Waiting only weakens one's position. Regret is often not about what people did, but about what they did not do. The most painful reflections come from the realization that opportunities were wasted, that important words were left unsaid, that meaningful actions were never taken. People rarely regret trying and failing, but they often regret never trying at all. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of uncertainty. These are all illusions that fade in comparison to the weight of regret. Time will continue to slip away, whether one acts or not. The choice is whether to use it meaningfully or let it disappear without purpose. One of the greatest dangers is falling into routine without awareness. Many people wake up, go through their daily obligations, and repeat the same cycle without questioning whether they are moving towards something meaningful. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. Suddenly they realize that they have been merely existing rather than truly living. Comfort and routine are seductive, but they can become a trap. Without intentional action, time slips away unnoticed, leaving nothing behind but a life of unfulfilled potential. The key is to recognize that time is always moving and to act accordingly. This does not mean rushing through life or constantly chasing productivity. It means being conscious of how time is spent, ensuring that it aligns with what truly matters. It means having the difficult conversations today instead of postponing them. It means pursuing dreams now rather than waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. It means taking risks, making decisions, and moving forward despite uncertainty, because time will pass regardless. Procrastination is one of the greatest thieves of time. It gives the illusion of relief in the moment, but creates stress and regret in the long run. Every time someone puts off an important task, a meaningful project, or a necessary change, they are stealing from their future self. The best way to counteract this is to develop the habit of immediate action. Small steps taken today are infinitely more valuable than grand plans that remain in the realm of someday. Those who understand the fleeting nature of time approach life differently. They do not waste energy on trivial distractions or meaningless pursuits. They invest their time in things that matter: relationships, personal growth, meaningful work. They understand that the value of time is not just in its quantity, but in how it is used. A short life lived with purpose and intention is far richer than a long life spent in avoidance and hesitation. Time slipping away is not something to fear. It is something to acknowledge and respect. It is a reminder that life is happening now, not in some distant future. The only moment that is guaranteed is the present one. The question is not whether time will pass. It will. The question is whether it will be spent in a way that leads to fulfillment, or whether it will be wasted on indecision and delay. The answer to that question determines the course of a person's life.